Alright, this is Chat UTD. I started this channel 2 years ago, and everything that I talk about, be it transfers, players' strengths and weaknesses, formation systems, managers, etc., I always caveat with the fact that all of that is circumstantial evidence of the failings of the owners of the football club. So I'd like to think that I've been true to myself and have integrity, that the Glazers and Ineos leaving is more important than anything else. This summer transfer window has just been further evidence and more symbolic of the fact that, again, that the owners failed this football club and are not fit for purpose to get us to where we want to be a competitive football club again. And to be a competitive football club again, we need a change of ownership. Man City are a small club with rich owners. They finished third last season, and in January there was a danger that they weren't even going to get in the Champions League. From January until now, they've spent hundreds of millions of pounds in aggressive pursuit of improvement on the pitch. Chelsea, bit of a basket case club, I think, but again, their owners and the board members find creative ways, find loopholes, sail very close to the wind in terms of cheating, to plough money into their club in pursuit of improvement on the pitch. There's many clubs in front of United who are better than United, who have seemingly more money than United, that are more aggressive in their pursuit of excellence on the pitch than we are. Their primary goal is to be successful on the pitch, all the while, of course, acknowledging that commerce is very important, commercial success is very important in football, but their primary goal is football and excellence on the pitch. We've just finished 15th. Where's our aggression? Manchester United have just finished 15th. Where's our tone setting? Where's our symbol of intent? I don't think our owners lack the ingenuity to put money in if I find the same sort of loopholes that Chelsea have done, but they don't want to. The Glazers, under the guise of strategic investment for the club, took £1.2 billion off Sir Jim Ratcliffe for a stake in our football club, and not a penny of that has gone back into it. And they claim poverty. And we have to sell before we can buy. And still no one does anything about it. So, as I said, there are several clubs that are already in far stronger positions than us, that are being far more aggressive than us in pursuit of excellence on the pitch. For Man United, pursuit of excellence on the pitch is a secondary thing to basically the owners getting rich and using it as a money-making scheme, basically. Racketeering dressed up as football ownership, as I've said before. Now, there's people that will say, football's cyclical, you've just got to suck it up, mate. You've had your time. This is your time on the sidelines. It's someone else's turn now. Yeah, football is cyclical, within reason. I'll give you the comparison of Liverpool, because I think that's a decent comparison. Liverpool in the 70s and 80s were very successful. And from 1990 until the COVID season, they didn't win a top flight title. But in that 30 years, which granted is a very long cycle without winning a title for a club the size of Liverpool, in that 30 years, when they were going through their, let's call it an off cycle, the lowest they ever finished was 8th. More often than not, they finished in the top 3 or 4, and within those seasons, quite a few times, they were involved in the title race. They won a Champions League and they won another European competition in that 30-year period, and they won numerous other competitions as well. So whilst it was not a successful period for them as obviously the 70s and 80s, they were in the conversation. Man United, when Ferguson left, there was bound to be a drop-off. Of course there was. But a drop-off, given where we were, we'd just won 13 Premier League titles out of 20. We'd never finished outside the top 3 in 20 years. A drop-off with even semi-competent owners, with that as the context, is struggling to win the league for 4 or 5 years, but not finishing any lower than 5th. And that is a disaster. I think in context, that's fair to say that. When during your off cycle, you finish 15th, as Manchester United in the current climate, that indicates something far more complex than just that football is cyclical. Something has gone very badly wrong if that happens. And then what you look for is a response. As I said, okay, let's be aggressive. Let's go and sail close to the wind of cheating like Chelsea are doing. Let's be creative. Let's find an edge. Let's find an angle to do what we need to do now. None of that. Because still, even with us finishing 15th, the primary concern is money. And what makes all of this even harder to take is that the fans do not have a stomach for a fight. And for me, I support Man United, but it's part of my identity. It's part of who I am. It's like a tribal thing. That's who I belong to. So I belong to that fan base. I find it very, very difficult to belong to a fan base that has been abused, raped, pillaged, metaphorically speaking, and just sits there and takes it. If there was a really proper, strategic, militant, systematic, relentless group of people that were fronting up to get rid of the Glazers and would not stop in pursuit of that, I would throw my weight 100% behind it. And that would be my primary concern really as a United fan. The other stuff, players, managers, systems, games that are going on would be secondary, because removing the Glazers and Ineos from this club is the be all and end all in terms of us moving forward as a football club. If it stays like this, at best we stagnate, at worst we just completely disappear really in terms of relevance in the footballing landscape. So it's really important to get rid of them. But there isn't anything like that militant, mobilised, systematic, strategic, relentless protest and intent to get rid of them. They've got it easy. And the 1958 have done more than anybody else. But like I always say with the owners, they can claim they've got good intent. I don't think they have, but they could claim they have. But the proof's in the pudding. They can't do what they need to do. The 1958 have very good intent. There's no question of that. But the evidence is there. They can't do what needs to be done. They haven't got the influence of enough of the fan base to be able to bring about change, because we're no further on now than we were 3 or 4 years ago when they first came to prominence as a serious kind of protest group and a voice for the fans, which whether they like it or not they are. We're no further on from that. So they haven't got what it takes. And one of the big issues they've got is that when they try and suggest things to do, the vast majority of the United fans will respond with statements like, well, it doesn't make any difference anyway. What's the point? But there's been dictatorships, regimes, massive regimes overhauled by a minority of people. History's littered with those examples. I'll tell you what didn't happen. The people that were fighting to get rid of the regime, whatever it was, the vast majority of them didn't say, well, it's not going to make any difference anyway. You're never going to get anywhere with an attitude like that. And I'm talking about some serious groups of people here with massive amounts of power. We're talking about 2 cretin gremlins from America versus one of the biggest fan bases in the world. And we can't get rid of them. No, we're not, there's no appetite to get rid of them. So we just continue to be abused, raped, pillaged. And I know those words are very emotive, but in a football sense, that's what they've done to this club and what they continue to do to this club. They've massacred it. So it's bad enough that that's happened, that they've massacred it. But it's to some degree even worse that there's not something we can get behind to feel like you're doing something about it. You just feel like a voice in an echo chamber saying the same things, along with a few other 1,000 people who desperately want them out. But apathy reigns, and apathy reigned 2 years ago and it still reigns now. On to more topical stuff. It looks like when Fabrizio Romano says here we go. It means obviously that player is going to sign for the club, and Brian Mbeumo, it looks like he's going to sign for Man United. We've spent 7 weeks negotiating a deal that we've ended up paying the same money for that we would have done if we'd have just done it 7 weeks ago, if that makes sense. It's another indicator again of the failings of the football club. I said near the start of the window when we'd signed Cunha and we were told that Mbeumo was going to sign, that for me, I'd have foregone Mbeumo in preference to have a striker, or to have a striker instead, because once you've signed Cunha, that's one number 10 in behind the striker. There's one more slot to play in behind the striker. We've got options. We've got Xerxes, I think that's his best position. Ahmad can play there, Bruno can play there, Mainu at a push can play there, Mount, if he's ever fit, can play there. So there's a number of different options there. We don't have any options up front for a striker. And it seems like Amrin really wanted Mbeumo, so you've got to back the manager in that respect. But what he's gone for is perfection in one position, for me, at the cost of being able to get what we desperately need, which is a striker, because I don't think we'll get one now, or if we do, as I touched upon in the previous video, I think we'll get a journeyman striker for a year or someone on loan or something like that. We need a top grade striker and 2 number 10s, really, but again, we haven't got the money to do that because the owners can't fulfil what needs to be fulfilled. It goes back to what I said at the start of the video. There's echoes of, not in terms of the character of the player, by the way, but there's echoes of Sancho. We didn't need a winger in that summer, but he was our so-called statement signing. Look how that turned out. We didn't need him, didn't need a winger. Mason Mount was a weird one. We spent a large chunk of a limited budget that we had that summer, when there was areas of great need, on a player that we didn't need, who was injury prone and had a poor season at Chelsea, and he was in the last year of his contract. Didn't make any sense, and has proved to be, for me, a disastrous signing. I don't think Mbeumo will be a disastrous signing, but there's a hell of a lot of pressure on him now. He has to be a transformative signing. One, because it's taken so long, that's not his fault. But for United, it needs to be a transformative signing because it's taken so long. And 2, because there's areas of great need in that team, and he doesn't fill that area of need. It's a luxury, really, in my opinion. I suspect for periods of the season, either Mbeumo or Cunha will be a striker, because they'll have to be. And I think it might well be, as I said, that we perhaps sign a journeyman type striker. But I think beyond that, I think this is it. I think that's a transfer window. We've just finished 15th, as I keep reminding everybody. And I think I keep reminding everybody because am I the only one that seems to think this is a problem? We've signed 2 players in the same position when we just finished 15th. We desperately need a striker and a goalkeeper. I'll forego a midfielder, which we desperately need. I'll forego a right wing back, which we desperately need, because I don't understand we haven't got any money. But a striker and a goalkeeper are 2 absolutely massive areas of the pitch that you need to be semi-decent in. Onana is a liability. There's times when I'm watching Onana and I think, is he all there? Like, he seems a bit vacant. You think someone needs to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey mate, we're at Old Trafford here in a Premier League game. Do you fancy paying attention? He's away with the fairies. I'm just not a very good goalkeeper. And Højlund, he had a decent first season. There's some hope that he could come back to semi-decent form, but last season was an absolute horror show for the lad. It's a long way back from there. So we need those 2 positions to even start to contemplate competing at a much higher level than where we are now. And I suspect the board, again, can't deliver what they need to deliver, which brings it right back round to what I said at the start. There's clubs that are already in far, far better position than we are, that are being aggressive and finding creative ways to put money into their clubs, sailing close to the wind in Chelsea's case, sailing past the wind in City's case, but no one seems to care in terms of cheating. But all with the pursuit of excellence on the football pitch. Whether we can say it's right or wrong, it's pursuit of excellence on the football pitch. Our club that's just finished 15th doesn't care about success on the football pitch. And this window absolutely epitomises that. So we spent 7 weeks chasing Brian Mbeumo. We paid the same money we would have paid in fact, we paid more now than we would have paid if we'd have just done it in the first place a few weeks ago. And now all the decent strikers that we could have been involved in have gone. As I said in the last video, there's no intent to get a striker. That was bullshit. And I think it's been the Mbeumo thing has been a convenient narrative that the club are working on that, so therefore they can't do other things. Oh well, all the other strikers have gone now. Oh, never mind, we really wanted one, but we can't get one. Yeah, no. You just you're not prepared to find ways of getting money into the club, and you're claiming poverty when you sat on £1.2 billion. So what you'll get now, call me cynical, is fans in absolute hysteria because we've bought Mbeumo. Because the fans have been fed so much rubbish and starved of anything for so long that when something semi-decent happens, they go way overboard. So the number 10 position is set absolutely. An abundance of choice. What about strikers? What about midfielders? What about wing-backs? What about a goalkeeper? Took 7 weeks to do one deal. Don't think we're going to have much else. Glazers out.